You're listening to the Face Value Podcast, episode 175. 6 things you could be doing that supports anti-fatness and can ruin body confidence. Let's do it!
Perfect.
Hello, welcome to this episode. I'm your host, Vinny. Pronouns they, them. How's life? You alright? I'm alright. Are you alright? Are you alright? I'm alright. Hey, you like the show? Want more of the show? Donate on Ko-fi. Link in the show notes. Links for anything I'm talking about in this episode in the show notes. You know what? This show notes doesn't have any links. Oh my glob. No links for today. Well, apart from Ko-fi, if you want to donate on Ko-fi. I'm not going to bang on about it. I see there's this meme, and I feel it to my bones. It says, the meme says, podcaster says, okay, let's jump right into today's episode, and it's 40 minutes into the show already. That's what I feel like sometimes I do. I've been for ages, I'm trying not to do it, because you know what, I'm like, it feels like you're my friend, and I'm like, I need to tell you something, and you know, what have I been doing, what have I been reading, what have I been watching, or whatever, and I don't know, you're probably not here for that, you're here for like, tell me the 6 things that's in this episode. Oh, I don't know, maybe you do like it. Who knows? I don't know. Give you a book recommendation. I gave you one last time. If you've never read it, Fat So by Marilyn Wan is really fun. And it is held up really well, considering it was... I'm just holding it up now. I'm just looking at it. When was it? It was published in like 1995 or something. First printing, 1998. You know why as well? Also, on the corner of the pages, it's got like a little dancing fat woman. It's hard to see on video anyway. But yeah, I mean, if I had written a book in 1998, Jesus Christ, what would be in it? Oh, God. Awful stuff. But Marilyn Wan, it's got great stuff in here. The heroes and villains of fat history. One of the villains is Jean Nidetch, founder of Weight Watchers. A hero, Ganesha. Well, I always thought it was Ganesh. Hindu deity, which is like elephant. Hero, Lillian Russell, a singer from 1861 to 1922, opera singer. And then, a villain. This is one of the villains that we talked about in the show. Louis Dublin, insurance executive from the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. You remember when did we talk about Louis Dublin? We spoke about Louis Dublin in the biggest scammers of the diet industry. Yeah, he was the one who, let's see what it says about him here. Created and popularized height-weight charts, yep. And then we've got one of the villains, Irving Fisher, first calorie counter. A hero, René Laennec, inventor of the stethoscope. I guess René was a fat person. Villain, William Banting, 19th century diet guru. Wrote the first popular modern diet book, which was called Letter on Corpulence from 1863. Sold more than 58,000 copies at 6p a piece. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, it's like this is like a cool little magazine, but it's in a book. There you go. There's a little thing for you. I'm there reading the freaking book, and you're like, fucking get on with the show. God, Vinny. Anyway, so today we talk about the 6 things you could be doing that supports anti-fatness and can ruin body confidence. And this is for anyone in any body size. So let's do it. The first thing, because you know what, I've been looking at old stuff that I've been making content for like a really long time now. Well, a really long time, like 10 years. And even like fat liberation stuff from like 2014. No, not that long. 2014, 2015. I just looked at a video from 2016. Can that be true? That long? Anyway, and it was kind of like 5 things that you're doing that make you hate your body. And I was like, it's interesting because you can see the growth that you have as a person of, you know, maybe thinking more nuanced about topics and thinking more intersectionally, which is cool to see. And also scary because in like 5 years' time, I don't want to be listening back to, you know, something that I'm saying now being like, oh my God, what an absolute dickhead. I probably wouldn't be, but you know, because I'm just saying, oh, I have more nuance now. It's not like I was saying in 2016 I was a dickhead, but anyway, the life of putting content in the world of people can say, people can have opinions, right? And that's absolutely fine. People can have opinions, and to live with other people having opinions about you, I think it's a skill, right? Sometimes easier, sometimes harder. Okay, so 6 things you could be doing that supports anti-fatness and can ruin body confidence, maybe. Apologies to people listening to the podcast on YouTube over video. My phone just decided to overheat, so I could no longer use it. So I'm recording the video on my iPad. Who knows how much memory my little old iPad has. Oh, I've been doing, you would not believe the palaver. I needed my iPhone battery changed because I bought a cheap charging cord and it fried my phone. It's either that or something else to do with the electric or something. Anyway, so I got went and took it into like a non-authorized Apple dealer, and they replaced the battery, but then the screen was damaged, so they replaced the screen, and then that screen came back, and then that screen was damaged. It had like something on the pixels, so then I went back again, and then that screen was damaged. So this is 3rd screen. 1, 2, 3 screens. And then yesterday I went back and I got the 4th screen. And then since then, my phone has been overheating and it's been having weird screens coming onto the screen and stuff. And so they've done something. I don't know what it is. I don't want to have to go back again. So I think I'm going to call them and say, hey, listen, I'm going to go to an authorized Apple dealer, and whatever they find, if it's got anything to do with you replacing the battery or the screens, then you can pay for that to be fixed. It might be something else, but I mean, oh, lucky I'm those things, like I wouldn't like blame the person in the store. I'd just be like, you know, shit happens. So, but I can imagine for a lot of people that would be very, well, it's frustrating for me too, but you know, I try to be chill about it. Anyway, so let's get back to it. Number 1, making structural inaccessibility and stigma about fat bodies being wrong versus systemic anti-fatness. AKA clothes don't fit, therefore I am bad. Fat people seeking equity means they are troublemakers. So I think this is a big mind shift thing, that if we are able to make that shift in our thinking, it's really, really powerful. And so I'm going to give you some examples. So like what that shift could be. So instead of thinking, these clothes don't fit, so you try something on and it doesn't fit, or you go to a store and they don't carry your size. My body is wrong. This is proof that I am too big. This is proof that I'm out of control. This is proof that I'm unattractive, etc. Instead of that self-blaming thought, or if you're a straight-sized person thinking if fat people don't fit, then that means that they are wrong, changing it to these clothes don't fit, they are not for me, they don't serve me. Clothing should be accessible, right? And thinking about, the way that clothing used to be made, every single piece of clothing was tailored to that person. It was made for them. And then where mass manufacturing came along and they had a range of sizes and that was it, then the people's bodies had to fit into the clothes, not the other way around. But in reality, the clothes should be fitting to us. And if they don't, it's not you that's the problem. And also, even if you are fitting into a certain size range, your size, whatever body, another person with that same size body could come along and their body could have completely different measurements. They might have, a smaller belly, but a bigger bum, or wider legs, or, whatever. And so even in someone who is a similar size, they could look totally different in the same piece of clothing. So it's not your body's fault. It's the fact that this thing that is meant to be serving you, an item of clothing, its existence is to be able to fit a human, right? Your existence is not to be able to fit clothes. Or say if you're a straight-sized person, wow, that person is too big to fit on the roller coaster. How embarrassing. Instead, shifting that thought to, wow, that roller coaster is not accessible for fat bodies. That is not right. So instead of it being a problem for the person, it's a problem, it's a systemic, it's an accessibility, it's an infrastructure problem. Or another example, it's not fair fat people can get 2 seats on an airplane and take up my space. Versus trying, it's not fair that airplane seats are not made for a lot of human bodies, and fat people often have to pay double to fly. If they even can fly, because some folks, the aisles are not accessible on the airplane. Or instead of, people won't date me because I'm fat and therefore I am unattractive, try, people won't date me because I'm fat and that means they are living with fat bias. That hurts me, society, and also hurts them. That's not okay. Also, they are losing out on this mega babe, which is me, their loss. Okay, so that thought process of a fat body being the problem to systems of inequity being the problem. And actually, that's a way that a lot of disability rights advocates define disability, is that it is not the physical impairment that is disabling, it is the environment that is disabling. Because if the environment supported people with different abilities, there wouldn't be that disability. So disability referring to environmental factors, not individual impairment factors. Just realised that. There you go. Look at me. I was thinking about that. My brain was thinking about that and I didn't even realise when I was making this. Okay, so number 2 is spending time with fat phobes and not setting boundaries. So if you have the privilege of being in a smaller body or white or someone with another privileged identity, then you need to use that power to shut down anti-fatness. If you're fat, then if it's possible, set boundaries with people about their anti-fatness. If you can't set boundaries due to structural power differences or, many different reasons why you wouldn't set boundaries, it might not be the right time. You might decide it's not safe. It's not good for your mental health right now. But there's a lot of times that we could, but we don't, because we're nervous. We don't know how to do it. We don't want to cede power. Being close to, what was it? I met my friend for lunch yesterday and I said something. She said, you need to write that down. That is such a good quote. And it was, I'm going to write it down. Proximity to power is intoxicating. I'm probably stealing that from someone. Let me Google it. I bet you like it. We're like, that was said by someone really famous. And now I'm like, I've come up with this really good quote. Let me Google it. Proximity to power is intoxicating. Ooh, there's something from the University of Cambridge, the intoxication of power. Subordinates become intimidated by the power of office and leaders become vessels of their projected fantasies. Is power intoxicating? Okay, so I don't think it's a quote from someone. I'm not stealing a quote from someone. But proximity, the phrase proximity to power is an idea, right? So sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of the times, we don't want to cede our proximity to power by aligning with an othered group, the othered group in this situation being fat people, or even if you are a fat person, aligning with, ceding power, which is the power of being a, quote, good fatty. We've spoken about good fatty / bad fatty on previous episodes, but basically good fatty is a fat person who is palatable. If you're a good fatty, then doesn't mean that you're bad or whatever. It's just, things that we would do to survive. So a good fatty is probably a fatty that is like, I'm desperately trying to lose weight. I love eating salads and working out all the time. I wear clothes that people feel more comfortable viewing me in. A bad fatty would be like, fuck that. I'm going to eat food which you deem unhealthy. I'm going to not spend my life trying to be thin, etc., etc. The power of being seen as a good fatty is intoxicating. And the power of being in a smaller body, the proximity to power. And the thing is, like, if you are in a fat body, you've not got that straight size power, that straight size privilege, right? But you're closer to it if you're a, quote, good fatty, and that's safer. And so it doesn't mean that someone's like, oh, I'm gonna. Fuck no, I'm not ceding my power. It's just that it's more comfortable, it's easier, it's more convenient to not disrupt the status quo. And sometimes it's not safe to disrupt it. So like it's complicated, right? So anyway, protecting yourself if you can't set boundaries. Protecting yourself from the anti-fatness that you're exposed to, because it is really likely to affect you negatively, even if you don't think it does. Sometimes we're so like, it's a tsunami of anti-fatness and that people are experiencing. And then, a light breeze comes along and it's like, well, that light breeze doesn't affect me. I'm used to a tsunami. But, once we've managed to remove ourselves from the path of that tsunami, that we'll realize that light breeze is actually a gale force wind. But sometimes we're just so used to so much anti-fatness that, you can feel like, well, is it that big of a deal? And I mean, if you've got someone being like really, really awful to you, then the smaller things might not seem as big of a deal. But as you deal with them, the bigger things, the smaller things, you might realize that actually that's also a big deal. Sometimes it's too much to think about that because it'd be overwhelming, being like, oh God, everyone in my life is anti-fat. So instead of, here's some scenarios. Mum gossips saying, ooh, your cousin still hasn't lost that baby weight. You responding with, why are you monitoring people's weight? That is not okay. These are examples, right? You might be like, I would never do that with my mum or whatever. Sister tells you she's taking weight loss injection. She'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm taking Ozempic, Wegovy, tirzepatide, whatever it is. Tell your sister, I love you, but don't support anti-fatness. So please don't tell me any more about your weight loss efforts. I'm being quite direct here, right? There's ways that you can do this softer, more gentle. Or you can just say, fuck off, right? You don't have, whatever, right? Whatever feels good for you. Okay, so example, a friend says, I feel so fat, and using fat in a negative way. You know what would be so cool? If your friend says, I feel so fat, and they use it in a positive way. How cool would that be to hear? Oh, look how fat I look today. Aren't I juicy? Wouldn't that be so cool to hear? And so if your friend says, I feel so fat, ask, say, I'm sorry you're struggling. What's wrong with being fat? What is it that you're actually feeling? Do you want any tips on anti-fatness? On unlearning anti-fatness, not on anti-fatness. They've already got that anti-fatness down. Do you want any tips on learning anti-fatness? Hey, there's this account on Instagram that I like. There's this podcast I listen to. Or you could say, don't talk to me about fat being a negative. Again, this is important to think about your power in that situation, your privilege in that situation. If your friend is a fat person, and you are a straight size person, saying, don't talk to me about fat being a negative is going to hit differently than if you were a fat person hearing your thin friend say that, because then you've got every right to be like, shut the fuck up. If it's that you're a straight size person and you're hearing your fat friend say, I feel so fat, going in with the, I'm really struggling. I'm really sorry that you're struggling with that. And what do you mean when you say fat? Like, is it that you just feel like you're too big and going in that way, or you might want to protect yourself because you can't hear that because you've got a history of body image stuff. So finally, Weird Uncle Keith makes a joke about fat people. So instead, depending again on your power and the situation and all that type of stuff, an idea is to remove yourself from the conversation. Say something like, fat jokes aren't funny, Uncle Keith. Change the subject. Or don't hang out with Uncle Keith anymore. So what I'm saying with this whole thing, this whole section, spending time with fat phobes and not setting boundaries, is this stuff is impactful. Not only for you individually, but for the world. Being a fat phobe is no longer acceptable. Like 2002, when did Shallow Hal come out? Like, I thought that shit was hilarious. Shallow Hal used to be my favorite, like top 20 film. Shallow Hal. If you've not seen it, it's Gwyneth Paltrow wears a fat suit. Hilarious. 2001. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't acceptable in 2001, but, it was a lot more acceptable then. So it's Weird Uncle Keith. It's not 2001 anymore. What are we in? Shallow Hal? Oh, and Jack Black's in it. I mean, come on. Jack Black's been in a lot of fatphobic stuff. Okay, so yeah, we can't just keep carrying on and being like, this is okay, and we're not going to say something when someone says something that is biased. And again, like a lot of people, do you know what a lot of people say to me? They're not saying that thing about me. Not everyone, because some people say, yeah, Weird Uncle Keith says I'm fat, and the fat is bad. Most of the time, people are saying, oh, I mustn't eat that, and they're talking about themselves, or oh, I'm being so naughty, and so it makes it harder because they're not directly like insulting you, but it's it doesn't make it okay. And that's like the stuff that slips by, and people will say, they're not saying it about me, so what can I do? And my mum's never going to change. My mum's 75 now. And that's ageism, by the way, suggesting that people who are older cannot possibly learn because their brains are so old that, it's just ageism, right? You have to give people the chance. Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm being quite forceful and judgmental right now. So I'm going to do what you want, okay? Just do what you want. But this is what I notice, okay, when I'm talking to people. The same themes come up again and again. And the people who are further along in unlearning anti-fatness, what I notice is that they're like, fuck no, my mum used to talk about that shit, but I told her to shut up. Or I don't have a relationship with my mum anymore. Or we're working on it, but she knows that whatever, you know, there's the difference, right, that I see of people who are further along in their unlearning anti-fatness journey and accepting themselves. Okay, so do what you want. I ain't the boss of you, but this is the things that I notice. And also, there's nuance in all of this that we're saying, because there's lots of different things that could be happening in your life outside of this. Okay, so number 3, you don't understand or challenge your own anti-fat beliefs. Okay, so you could feel okay in your current body, or maybe not, but you could still have a ton of anti-fat beliefs. And the only time that they're going to come up is if you put on weight. Then they'll come screaming into your brain. Not always, but we're really good at thinking other people are attractive. People who look like us and hating our own bodies, being like, well, they know how to dress. This is a big one. But they look better. Like, there's something better about them, even though their body is exactly like mine. Or people who have bigger bodies or, you know, queerer bodies in some way. Yeah, but, they're confident, right? And because I'm not confident, therefore, it means that my body is horrid. Yeah. So a way to understand or challenge your own anti-fat beliefs is to ask yourself, if I were in a bigger body than the one I have today, what thoughts, fears, worries, or beliefs come up? What would being fatter mean about me as a person? What would it mean about me as a person? What would it mean about my health? What would it mean about my attractability, my desirability? How might have I become bigger? And you might say, well, I probably was lazy, or I probably did this or that. And so then it's like, bing, 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 bing. Great. Okay. So we've got a little bit of like laziness. Okay. So let's lean into that. Let's explore more about fatness and laziness, and where does laziness come from? Where do we think? White supremacy culture, where everything shit comes from. So yeah, like health, desirability, laziness. Will your partner like you? Will you have friends? Will you be lonely? Will your life be destroyed? You know, these types of things. Or, you know, like this question I've asked many times. 1 or 2 people would be like, oh, well, you know, my body probably would have done what it needed to do, and I probably would have healed from my eating disorder. And I, you know, flabbergasted when I heard those answers. And that's really cool. If you say something like that, amazing. If you don't feel bad. It just means that the stuff is there, right? That means that your brain is smart and soaked up the anti-fat bias that is surrounding it. So say, for example, your anti-fat belief is, I worry that if I had a bigger body, then I would have type 2 diabetes, I would have heart disease, I would have cancer. And so when I hear things like that, I'm like, love it. Because it's so clear, right? It's so clear. It's so digestible, and we can work on it. Okay, so we've got some bias around type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and fatness. So you could say to yourself, I'm going to go to whhhyyyy.com. Here we do have a link, whhhyyyy.com, and I'm going to look at what they say about those conditions and see if that helps. And if that doesn't help, then I'm going to do some more research and look at other information, and also what could be causing those fears. Is it shame from fatness and diabetes? Is it fear that I will die? Is it the belief that this is especially with type 2 diabetes, the fear mongering around it is just whoa Nelly. And for a lot of people, it is a deeply manageable condition. Right. And the worst thing about it is the stigma. And so if you can preemptively unlearn that stuff, not saying that you're going to get type 2 diabetes, but, that'll be helpful for you and other people around you. So an anti-fat belief could be that I'll be lazy if I have a fatter body. That's another thing, is that people will say, I will have let myself go I would I would have just said fuck it, and then I would have become fat. And so with that, exploring something like, what's that book called? That book is called Laziness Does Not Exist. Laziness Does Not Exist by Devon Price. Really good book. Love that book. Probably mentioned it 100 times. And learning colonialism, ableism, all of that stuff, capitalism that goes along with laziness, the belief around laziness. Okay, so what comes up? And so not understanding that you would have those beliefs and what they are. If you know what your anti-fat beliefs are, chef's kiss, love it. That's like, I like using this analogy, and the analogy is we're carrying around suitcases, and the suitcases represent our beliefs. And some of our suitcases are jam-packed with information and with evidence and with anecdotes and with experiences. And so one of the suitcases says fat is bad, and everyone's fat is bad suitcase is different. The contents are going to be a little different, but a lot of the times they're very similar, right? We open the suitcase and we examine what is in there. You're like, oh, look at this stinky sock. It turns out that this stinky sock needs to go into the garbage. Oh, look at this crusty spunk-covered T-shirt. Let's burn that one. And those things represent the evidence. And so one of the pieces of evidence being type 2 diabetes is something that fat people, consequence of being fat, and because they're so greedy, they eat so much sugar, or whatever it is that you believe about type 2 diabetes. And then so you're picking up the crusty sock, giving it a sniff, by looking for the evidence and deciding, do you want to put it back in the suitcase or do you want to put it in the incinerator? And with that, then you will also be putting stuff into the suitcase that says fat people are just human, normal people, And so if we don't even know what is inside the suitcase, or even that the suitcase exists that says fat is bad, you kind of, it's a step that we'd want to take. So opening that suitcase, love it. And so you could have some real doozies in there, right? Of things, and you'll be your experiences too of your mum doing this, or your auntie saying that, or a teacher saying whatever experiences you've had, and the media that you might have consumed. So moving on to number 4, and we're talking about media. So following predominantly normative weight people on social media. So I mentioned before, your brain is super smart and adept at forming biases, right? It's our brain is doing like making shortcuts, deciding who is in the in group and who is in the out group. If you follow a ton of white, thin, non-disabled, cis, het people on social media, who do you think that your brain is going to teach you is the, quote, correct body? If you don't know what cis het is, it means cisgender. That means someone who aligns with the gender, with the sex that they were born. Their gender and their sex from birth are aligned. Het means heterosexual, someone who is not queer. Cis het people. Cis het is the shorthand, because that's a load of letters, right? So we cannot ignore the power of passively absorbing that information, right? And a quick test, here's a little quick test. Get your phone out, open your favorite image-based social media, it's probably going to be Instagram, and see the first 10 or 20 posts on your feed. Are they normative bodies? How many of the people are you seeing that are super fat folks? How many are racialized? How many are disabled? How many are trans, etc., etc., right? You might say, Vinny, I've just got dog images. That's cool. Dogs? You're like, now I have a bias that humans need to have a wet nose and furry ears, because I've been watching so many dog videos. Dog videos will make you happy, right? But if you're struggling with body image stuff, using social media as a tool can be helpful. I've been looking at a lot of studies. I do stuff as a DEI consultant too. So I've been looking at studies recently for a big company on body image in kids and looking at the research for the last 20 years. And so with social media, it was presumed that social media use would destroy kids' self-esteem. And what they found was that image-based social media parts of apps, so Facebook, if they're looking at other people's images, that could be detrimental to self-esteem. However, uploading their own images and interacting with community was supportive to self-esteem. I can't remember what they said about, I don't think they, oh no, they did. And saying that seeing images of people who look like you was also supportive. So, you know, a lot of times we talk shit about social media being like, oh, it's this evil thing and it's ruining everyone's lives. But it can also be used as a tool to help you. Or it could ruin your life because you spend 55 years on TikTok watching stupid fucking videos of slime. Like me. Anyway, so see, have a look at the first 10, 20 posts. What comes up? Here's the thing, right? Some people will say, oh, it's all anti-diet people. Okay. What bodies were the anti-diet people in? Oh, they're all thin. They're all white. They're all young. Okay. So you're kind of like a step there. You know, you're not following diet accounts and thin bodybuilding people or whatever, but diet people, but you're not getting that extra benefit of following people who are not in normative bodies. And the thing is, this is like stuff that you can do automatically, right? Your brain is doing this, soaking up this information automatically. And so if we can help our brain soak up information that supports us and is not steeped in anti-fatness, why not do it? And number 5, that takes us to watching shows and movies with predominantly normative bodied people. And so similar to social media, TV shows and movies can impact us greatly. And I think potentially even more because they are able to tell expanded stories about what thinness and fatness mean alongside imagery. It's not representative of the world to have a group of people who are all thin, white, cis, etc. as the only characters of a show, right? That's not what the world looks like. And so you're being fed ideas about who humans should look like. And again, your brain is smart and will soak up that information and make meaning from it. And so I'm not saying that you should never watch that trashy dating show again. I know I will be watching trashy dating shows, but be cognizant of the media you're watching and how, 1, it systemically supports anti-fatness, and 2, how it teaches you that your body is wrong. Also, it's going to help you see things easier, which is kind of a curse. perceive how things are maybe unequal. And, you know, taking off those rose-tinted glasses, being like, wow, you know, like I've said before, I used to think the show Sex and the City was super diverse because they had a ginger one, they had a brown-haired one, they had a blonde one, and then they had another blonde one who was slutty. So, I mean, can you get more diverse than that? Like, what the fuck? Really? You know? And so unlearning stuff will help me go back and say, oh, no. And it'd be jarring, right? Like, I started watching, what's this new show that's on Netflix? It's a Spanish show. Deepfake Love. This thing is fucked up. This show is fucked. What they do, I think every single person on the show is white and thin or muscular. It's just like the whiteness, the thinness, there is one queer couple. Anyway, what they do in this show, Deepfake Love, is they the couple split up and they both go live in different houses, right? There's 5 couples, so, and then they've got singles in the house. Then during the time, do you know deepfake images? Is it deepfake, where they get videos of a celebrity and they're able to copy them and make them say anything that they want, right? So it was a fake image, it's a fake video, but it looks so good that you cannot tell that it's not that person. And so they've got these deep fake videos of their spouses like gobbling off some dude in the other house. And then they're asked, is this a fake video or is this real? And they're all tortured by it. It is so unethical. Like, you can see they're having these visceral reactions. They are experiencing trauma. And even if it turns out that they're not real, they're still having those experiences and the body remembers, right? Oh my God, it's fucked up. I mean, I still have watched like 5 episodes, but but then, you know what? I started noticing, being like, oh, only thin people are worth longing over. That's what my brain said. My brain said that, and I said, oh, okay, time to turn this off. Yeah, I might go back to it. I don't know. It's fucking, it's trash. But, I mean, if that's your thing, clearly it's my thing. Anyway, so, and as well, I think, things like that, I think, is Netflix going to be like, okay, well, it's okay to show people dating shows where everyone's white, everyone's thin. That's what this person wants, and that's what millions of other viewers around the world. Or is this just boring? And really, it's really fucking boring. I mean, I can't barely tell them apart. There's two, because they've got singles in there too. So they've got like a cast of maybe 30 people. There's, I think, 2 racialized people. So, I mean, diverse! Sarcasm. Yeah, so I think, like, is Netflix like, okay, well, they're down with the whiteness, Is there going to be like a label? They're down with the thinness. They don't want no diversity because I'm there fucking binging this show. I don't know. Who knows, right? Anyway, okay, so number 6. Believing that you are free from anti-fatness. I had a interaction today. A diet account shared a post of mine that says, signs that you're struggling with fat phobia. I looked at the account. All of the posts were, not all of them, 75%, calories in this thing, how to lose fat, best ways to lose weight. And so I commented saying, looks like you're struggling with fat phobia with the posts that you're on your account. And the account owner replied back saying, no, I'm not, but people I know are. And I was like confuddled, confused, befuddled, because I said, oh, are you not the one posting all of the calories and also you've put hashtags on my post. This is a post that I made, right? It's my content. They put hashtags on the post of, oh word this, oh word epidemic, lose weight, all this stuff. And I was like, listen, I said, even I struggle with fat phobia. So you probably do too. So yeah, so I will never be free from anti-fatness because you guess what? I have this gorgeous brain and I'm going to continue to soak up violent anti-fat rhetoric from our world, no matter how much I try to protect myself. And until we live in a fat positive utopia, we're still going to be bombarded with those anti-fat messages. And our brains are going to be as smart and as absorbing and curious as ever. So they're going to pop up, right? Like this example of me saying, oh, only thin people are worthy of being longed over, of being thought about and having someone cry from the fear of losing them. You know, passion, that's for thin people. So anti-fatness popped up in my brain. Doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't mean it's my fault, but it's my responsibility to look at that and say, is that true? No. Okay, what am I going to do? Decided to stop watching the show for now. I'm thinking about this. Is this true? Okay, well, I need to get some fat romance into my head. I need to break this down. And luckily, you know, I've got the privilege of doing this job. Doing this job, right? So I'm thinking about these things. But that idea that, that's it. I'm done. I've arrived. I'm never going to have a biased belief again. I mean, no. No. Unless you die at that moment, you know. So, you know, unless someone unplugs you from the Matrix, you are. And I think that curiosity and that realization that you are not a perfect human being, for me, knowing that I'm not perfect, and also I'm going to try my hardest, and also I'm going to say, hey, this is, you know, I fucked up here or whatever. I'm going to endeavor to do those things, kind of makes me feel more relaxed, right? Because how hard would it be? How impossible would it be? Especially if you're interested in this stuff, and you probably are if you're listening to the podcast. How hard would it be to be like, well, I've arrived, I've got perfect body image, and I never ever think anything anti-fat. I mean, it's not realistic. You know, you're not giving yourself any grace. Then we all deserve grace, right? And so that realization of, yep, just for the rest of my life. And if I've been exposed to anti-fatness, I'm probably going to have more anti-fat beliefs. If I'm stressed, I'm probably going to have more anti-fat beliefs. If I'm in a new relationship, I might have more anti-fat beliefs. If I'm meeting new people, I might have more anti-fat beliefs. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It means that I have a brain. And it's my responsibility to unlearn that bias when I am able to identify it. I mean, like, that's another thing is, like, for me, it's helpful to pinpoint those things that are triggering for me. And a big one is media. Media is triggering for me. And this is someone who does this work. And so if you're really struggling with body image stuff and anti-fatness stuff, consider, you know, giving yourself a lot of support, because if someone who is doing this as their job can struggle, then, I mean, you know, if it's not also your job, then it probably means that you will struggle too. Unless you got it all worked out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe someone has got this, you know, magic brain out there. I don't know. Imagine. I've never met them, but I've thought about this before. Someone who's like, their parents had never said mean things to them as a kid, you know, or no one ever bullied them, or no one has ever told them that fatness is bad, or, you know. Wouldn't that'd be fun to meet that person? They exist, right? So I don't know. Do they? I don't know. Okay, well, that's the end of the show. If you enjoyed hanging out with me today and you want more Fierce Fatty, or if you just want it to continue, then go to Ko-fi. Link in the show notes, 175. I'm telling you like you would know what that means, 175. fiercefatty.com/175, or just go to fiercefatty.com and you'll find the button for the podcast, or you're listening to the podcast somewhere, so you'll find a link somewhere, who knows. If you've ever got episode suggestions or questions for the show, feel free to email me, fatty@fiercefatty.com. I've got a really good cup of tea on the go. Oh, it's good. Isn't that nice when you've got a nice cup of tea and it's the perfect temperature? Let me have a little taste. Oh, it could do with being a degree hotter. I've been chatting too much and forgotten about it. Almost perfect cup of tea. I got it in my Yeti cup that someone gave me. Anyway, I'm going to stop fucking banging on about shit and let you run into the world. Stay fierce, fatty. And I will see you in a while, alligator. Have a great day. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.